Today we're taking a look at the Centerpoint Amped and Heat 425. Welcome back to Mike's Archery's YouTube, and today we're taking a look at a couple of entry-level crossbows from Centerpoint. Now we put these in the same video because the Amped 425 and the Heat 425 are pretty much the exact same bow from Centerpoint. One of them is going to be somewhat of a dealer bow, the other one you're going to see in box stores, but at the end of the day, there's very little to no difference between these two bows. Now the Heat does have a couple of options that you can pick up directly from Centerpoint without doing an add-on with the crank. You can purchase that bow with a crank included, where the Amped is only going to come one way with your standard rope cocker. Now as we look at some of the specs on these two bows, they are advertised up to 425 feet per second. We're going to throw it on the chronograph here in a little bit and see what they really give us, but that's what they're advertised at, is a 425 foot per second bow. Now the draw weight on the front end of this bow is 195 pounds, and they're advertising it getting 160 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So plenty of knockdown power there. Even though it's an entry-level bow, you're going to be able to hunt anything you want in North America and not have any issues at all. Now the overall power stroke on this bow is going to be 14.5 inches, while the overall length of the bow is 36 inches. So a fairly nice, tight, compact setup here that's going to work well for you. Now overall, this bow uses an aluminum rail, which that's a nice feature. You're not going to have to worry about wear and tear on that rail, but the rest of the bow is a composite material that's holding up quite well and will withstand, temperatures that are really cold or really hot, and take some abuse there in the woods and on your side-by-sides. It's coming with a basic scope. It's just a standard 4x32 multi-reticle scope. It's got 4-line multi-reticle in that scope. So you're going to be able to sight this bow in out to 50, 60 yards, just depending on what arrow configuration you use with it. But it's nothing special. It's not lighted or anything like that. If that's something you're looking for, you may be able to jump into this crossbow and then upgrade later to a little better scope. If you wanted something with a lighted reticle, or that you could shoot a little farther distance or have some speed adjustability, certainly look at a lot of aftermarket scopes are some great add-ons to this bow. Now it does have an ambidextrous safety and trigger, so you're going to be able to shoot this bow left or right-handed regardless of who you are. And it does have a fairly tight and small compact front end. This bow is 15 3/4 inches when it's uncocked, and at full cocked it is only 12 inches wide. So you're not going to have to worry about if you're in a tight situation in a tree or in a ground blind, maybe with a kid or somebody else in there with you. This bow is going to be really compact and small and fit every situation. From there, they have got a factory weight on this bow of 7.8 pounds. Now, when we throw this on the scale, it's nowhere near that, but we do an out-of-the-box weight on these crossbows, including everything that's going to come with it. That's going to have the scope mounted, that's going to have the quiver attached to it, as well as the 3 arrows and the rope cocker. The Amped is coming in at 10.4 pounds with those accessories on it, while the Heat, if you add that extra crank to that back end and be able to pull that back, it's going to be at 11.2 pounds. So just keep that in mind, that those advertised weights on crossbows is a stripped bow with none of those accessories on there, and it is going to be a bow that's going to weigh closer to that 10-11 pound range as far as you packing it in and out of the woods. Now a few of the other features that come in on both of these bows, they do have an adjustable stock in the back with an adjustable cheek piece from the factory. So that's going to allow you to move this stock in and out, be able to maybe fit some of those kids that you've got, maybe if you've got a smaller frame, but also if you're a bigger guy, you're going to be able to move that stock all the way out and be able to fit you. Also with the adjustable cheek piece, that's going to allow you to get that eye relief and get a comfortable fit, so that you know that you're on target properly every time. These bows do have a built-in anti-dry fire in there, so just in case an accident would happen, you should be covered there and it will not let go of that string on you. Couple other features in this bow, they threw in a small broadhead wrench back here in the back end of the stock, and they do include that quiver bracket that's adjustable either direction, and a full set of sound dampening. So you got your limb dampeners also out here on the stirrup, and it's also rubber coated. All your string silencers as well as your string stop. It's well made to keep things quiet and have no issues there, trying to make this crossbow as quiet as possible. Now we do like to say there is no such thing as a quiet crossbow, but they've tried to eliminate as much noise out of these models as they can. Now let's step back here and shoot these bows over the chronograph, see what kind of numbers they're putting up, and see what kind of noise levels that they're giving off. We're going to take a few shots of this bow over the chronograph just to kind of see what numbers it's putting up, see what kind of noise level it's giving off. We are shooting this with the factory arrows that come in the box with it. They are 400 grain arrows, which is similar to what we do with our compound models. And we'll kind of see what this bow is giving us here. All right, so we're getting a speed of 405. Now they are advertising this thing at 425 feet per second, but we're getting 405 feet very consistently. Now we figure that's because of the 400 grain arrow that they're sending with it, but if you probably take it down to a 350 grain arrow, which is going to be pretty much the minimum that you would be able to shoot out of this bow without causing any issues, you're probably going to see those speeds that they're advertising. So in their defense, they are saying this will shoot up to 425 feet in their advertising, but out of the box, you are not going to see those numbers. And if you decide to go with a heavier broadhead, say a 125 or even 150 grain broadhead to get a little more punch, you're certainly going to see those speeds come down. Now, as far as the decibel meter, this bow is giving off 104.1 decibels. So for a crossbow, not terrible. We typically see our compounds under 100, but 104 is about where you're going to see most of your crossbow noise levels. So not terrible when it comes to that. Overall, for an entry-level price point crossbow at $399, I think Centerpoint's got a couple options here that you can certainly step into. If you do decide to go with that Heat model, realize that you do have a crank option there that you can purchase with that bow and add that on. Now you can purchase a crank separately from Centerpoint as well if you have any issues cocking these heavier weights, but they are not a silent crank. Centerpoint does make a silent crank for some of these bows, but they are quite spendy and you'll spend almost as much as you did on this bow. So if you're looking at something like that, we would recommend that you step up to one of the higher end bows. But overall, take a look at some of these Centerpoint models to get you in the woods and get you started at that $399 price point.